I saw your film back in the fall at the Nightmares Film Festival, and
Oh, cool.
so this was my second time watching it. Let me tell you, watching it in a dark theater full of people like anticipating the worst as far as like jump scares and everything. I had
Hmm.
so much anxiety
Good.
in that theater, and I had it once again at home. My first question is that starting off as a writer and director, you've kind of gone down the path of horror, and I'm
Hmm.
wondering what makes that genre the perfect avenue for your creativity.
I think it's just because it's such a diverse genre. I think that there's just so many different subgenres underneath it that you can play with, and you don't have to stick to any one thing. I think Jordan Peele showed everybody that the most with like Get Out, where it is genuinely hilarious a lot of the time, and then it turns around immediately and it slaps you in the face with something horrifying. So I think that I mean, the reason horror is so popular right now is because it's not just horror anymore. Like back in the '80s and those times, like a slasher movie, you just kind of got this idea of like, oh, it's blood and guts and it is this thing for this specific audience. But it's evolved so much in the last 30, 20 years that it just became something that is almost for everybody now in a lot of cases. I think there is still a lot of different subgenres that people don't go to, publicly or whatever. But in general, horror is just it's not defined by any one thing anymore. And so I think that creatively, that's really freeing that you can just sort of dive in and play around, and there are no real rules.
Yeah, I mean that's a fantastic way to look at it. So, yeah, I mean horror has become such a big thing, I feel like, in recent years, and then people
Hmm.
reflecting back on the films of the 80s and appreciating them more in the 90s and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a fantastic genre that, as you said, you can kind of build off of, and
Yeah.
so this film takes place primarily over the body cam footage and also dash cam. I was wondering,
Hmm.
were these like legitimate devices that law enforcement would use, or what kind of cameras were you using?
We use GoPros for most of it just because it allowed us a little bit more professional freedom with like the color of the image and allowed us to dial in some settings that we wouldn't have been able to with a police body cam. But with there are night vision sequences in the movie, and we bought some like cheap body cams for those because GoPros don't do night vision. So we did
Mhm.
buy a handful of these like really, $100 Amazon body cams, and we use those for the night vision sequences just because they did an adequate job, and the very good ones are very expensive and we didn't have the budget for it. So when I was deep in post, I tried to reach out to Axon, the company that makes like the legit body cams, to try and use their logo in the top corner, but they never got back
Yeah.
to me, so I wasn't able to to do that.
Well, I think it's very convincing the way that it's shot and just the way that it's attached to them. I mean, it feels very
Yeah,
legitimate, and especially with body cam footage being such a big thing in pop culture right now, I feel like
totally.
this film will definitely resonate with those types of people. And this film just goes a mile a minute. Like it's like pretty much you have that opening scene
Hmm.
with them playing around with the guy at the traffic light, and then it's just like nonstop chaos
Right.
and horror. Uh, so the what do you think is the advantage and the disadvantage of going a found footage route such as this and a more standardized like type of horror?
I think found footage is efficient. Like you can move so fast because I mean every scene at most had two camera shots, so you've got like a two-page scene of dialogue. If we were shooting that traditionally, you would have maybe five, six different lenses or whatever, and you'd be changing the lighting and moving all this stuff. But when you're doing found footage and you want to, stick to found footage, it needs to feel real. And so, these officers, they're acting in these scenes, they're lighting the scene with their flashlight, like all of that is really happening, and it moves at the speed of like a stage play where you just once you go from A to B and that's it, and there's no like, okay, now we need to go in for a close-up of this scene here and move over here, and that's what really bogs down production. And so when you strip all that away and you're just doing the bare minimum of what the movie's allowing you to do, you can move super fast. Like we shot this in 12 days, and we never had overtime. Like every day was like 10 hours maximum. And so it was just like a very comfortable shoot, despite the fact that we were shooting it all overnight. That's never comfortable. But the disadvantage is you don't get to get perfect shots, you know, like you never get to design something that cleanly. And, you know, there are certain moments in the film where it's like, okay, you want to see Bryce from his back and you want to reveal something behind him. So he's like, he's acting as the cameraman. And that does happen, but it's different when you're putting that responsibility on an actor that's just going to be moving the way they move and stuff like that. So it's kind of a constant balance of how do we cinematically show something without really being able to cinematically show something, you know, and like how do we
Yeah,
cheat without cheating? And so that was kind of the hardest part, was just setting up certain moments that would be more effective told traditionally. And also like music, you know, like there's no score in the film; it's completely sound design driven. And so that
which
was
is what
in,
gives it more
yeah,
anxiety.
yeah,
So,
and but it also can do the inverse sometimes. It's like, you know, some scenes in movies they can be fixed by good music, by just like punctuating a moment or something like that. When you lose that, sometimes you lose a little bit of the effectiveness. So it's kind of a dance, you know.
gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I think that's there's we talked about how horrors kind of become like bigger in recent years, but I do think
Hmm.
found footage has kind of like it had like its heyday back in like the early 2010s. So I
Hmm.
think that like when you have like something like this come out and it's actually like a big surprise and it's very effectively done, you know, it's just like, you know, a cheap shot at the genre, you
Hmm.
know. I
Right.
think that this is what will resonate as well as, you know, it is such a big thing, but body cam footage. Like my
Right.
girlfriend, she watches body cam footage, so
Yeah.
you know, but the there's a lot of really disturbing imagery and visual sounds, and even without the music score.
Hmm.
So, uh, just what was a moment in body cam that you found the most challenging to execute, like via the found footage format? What was there any that come to the top of your head?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's, you know, in the middle of the movie, there's a sequence where Bryce is going through something that we can't see. And it was really important to me to have us see it at a certain point in the film. Like, if we're going to watch him go through it, if we're going to go through the same thing, we, the audience, need to be a part of that and not just sort of like seeing nothing, you know? And so there's a design sequence. I know you know what I'm talking about, but it's a Jackson's driving to the house. I'll just say that. And coming up with that idea was one thing, but executing it when you can't do anything but show the objective reality on this body cam, that was super complicated because we had to both remove, like, you know, if we went through that sequence and all you see are Jackson's hands driving like this, it wouldn't be very
Mhm.
effective. So we have to design it in a way to take the camera off his chest. He has like a come to Jesus moment and then he puts it down so we can watch him go through it, because at the end of the day we want to see him go through this experience, and then we can use the dash cam to show what he's experiencing, and it's this cool kind of impossible reality that we're showing. And that whole sequence was just a absolute gauntlet to finish. Like, just we I worked with this team out of Vancouver, this company RCS Studios, and we built a city in Unreal, and we had all these like light triggers and all these things, and then we had to take the cop car into a volume, and then we shot it practically, so he's actually pretending to drive in there, and it's not just like green screen or anything like that. That's
Yeah.
actually there, you know, which is a really unique thing to be able to do on a budget of our level. But yeah, it was just really cool because it was a sequence that was like on the page it's like, okay, sure, whatever, but when you're executing it with the format, it's like, we don't have the money or the resources to do this. Like, how are we going to pull this off? And there was a time near the end of the movie where it was just like, this might get cut, and we just sort of like go to the house or whatever, and it just we get rid of all that. But you know, it took a lot of time and a lot of effort, and they finally got it to a point where it works. And to me, that's like a little miracle that it works at all, you know.
Oh, and that scene you're describing is one of my favorite scenes in the film.
Cool.
Because yeah, because I mean the complete like going in circles basically, like
Yeah.
you know, you're directed towards that, you know, you're the origin basically. I mean
Right.
it's I mean, I'm terrible with words right now, but freaky. It's like very freaky. Um, my final question for you. In the end, there really are no winners.
Hmm.
Um, do you think that, like, no matter what, if they would have taken this call, they would have been trapped into this curse? Or do you think it all leads to what we see in the trailer of the gunshot being fired and that's when it started?
I think the gunfire, I think when they took something from them, they were going to take something back. And I think that is the safest way to look at it is that, the call was happenstance. Had it gone differently, I don't think this would have happened. But there was decisions made, there was communication that was lacking in that, a pivotal moment. And because that happened and it wasn't handled differently, it set them up, and their fate was determined the moment he pulled the trigger.
Got it. Well, I appreciate your time so much. I really
Yeah,
did enjoy it. And as I said, it gave me such anxiety. So I can't wait to push that anxiety on other people. So
thanks, man. Yeah, I wish I was at Nightmares. I was so bummed I couldn't go.
it's always just a fun experience because you never know what's going to pop up on the screen. I try to go as
Yeah,
blank as possible into those festivals.
cool.
So, but
It's
it's
amazing.
very nice talking to you.